President Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing 25% additional tariff, what he calls a penalty for India for continuing to buy Russian oil. Now, what this basically means is that India now faces the highest tariff, and along with Brazil is at 50%, which is the highest in the world. So here's how things stand as of now. The 25% rate announced earlier comes into effect from the 7th of August. But the additional 25% that has been announced comes into effect from the 27th of August. So let's break it down for you and let's tell you where India stands in the tariff table. So let's break it down for you and give you the numbers. Firstly, India and Brazil are tied at the maximum amount of tariff that has been imposed, which is at 50%. So India is at 50%, Brazil is at 50%. Then comes South Africa at 30%. Now, in South Asia, India has been levied the highest tariff, which means all of these other South Asian countries, which are competitors for India, have much, much lower tariffs. Look at Vietnam, look at Indonesia, 20% as well as 19% for these countries. Apart from that, the trade deals have also been sealed for the other countries, including Japan, South Korea and UK. Japan and South Korea pay 15%, whereas the UK, the trade tariff has been fixed at a 10% tariff. So this has been announced by Trump. Remember, as of today, 25% tariffs come into effect, but the other 25%, the additional 25% that has been announced by Trump comes into effect after 21 days. So there is that 21-day period where negotiations can go on. And interestingly, a team from the White House or the White House administration is going to be in the country for these negotiations. But let's get you breaking updates now coming in. On being asked about the Indian officials saying that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil, like China. Why are you singling India out? This was a pointed question that was asked to the US President Donald Trump, but here's what he went on to say. He said, it's been only 8 hours. Let's see what happens. You're going to see a lot more. So hinting that there could be secondary sanctions on India.
Let me go, please.
Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance,
It's
buys
okay.
more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional sanctions?
It's only been 8 hours. So let's see what happens over the next.
Sanctions.
You're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of
You're going to see a lot more. You're going to see so much secondary sanctions. Yes, ma'am.
So what does this mean for India, and is Trump having an edge in the negotiations with India, or has India's calm response made it clear that India is ready to take on the United States and is ready to play this trade game? Joining us on the broadcast is PK Basu, economist, Rabinder Sajde, foreign affairs expert. Thank you for joining us. But before I come to you, let me also introduce my colleague, senior consulting editor Srinjoy Chaudhary, on the broadcast with us. And Srinjoy, over just the last 24 to 48 hours, we've seen Trump first, when he was asked about America's double standards, the fact that they are also importing from Russia, he said, I have no idea about it. And now he has gone on to even threaten secondary sanctions on India when questioned about why India is being singled out.
The only thing very predictable about President Trump is his unpredictability. So as a result, it's very hard to say what he will do next. Now, when he says, let's see, it's very hard to say what is the next step. We know one thing, that this 25% penalty could be part of a negotiating tactic. You impose 25%, then another 25%. You put the other country on a back foot, and then you negotiate. Now, this is entirely possible. But again, nothing is known about President Trump because he appears to change his position very often. Look at the situation with China.
Yes.
When there was a time when China faced 150% plus penalties, and China did exactly the same. They did the same thing. Now, at that time, President Trump decided that no, it was good to negotiate, and they've come down to 30% or something. The point is, China is the world's largest exporter, and America is the world's largest importer. And if there were 150% tariffs on all Chinese goods that were imported to America, inflation would skyrocket. Now, in India's case, it's a little different, but nevertheless, it could be a negotiating tactic. And as you've said already, a delegation will be here very shortly. And then there will be an opportunity to sit down and work things out.
Okay, all right. So anything is possible in the Trump circus, and we never know what could happen in the coming few days. But one leader has steadfastly stood with India's line of highlighting the U.S. double standards, and that is Shashi Tharoor. He has called for India to give U.S. a taste of its own medicine by imposing reciprocal tariffs. Here's what he said on what India should do now.
There is unfortunately a certain double standard involved. Clearly, this has not been a particularly friendly gesture from a country we thought was well disposed towards us, or our administration that we thought was well disposed. Very clearly, we have to act accordingly, and we will have to learn our lessons from this experience. I think there is certainly a likelihood there will be some pressure within India now to impose comparable reciprocal tariffs on American exports to India. So I think we're going to have to really start looking at other trading partners much more in these circumstances.
So while this was the advice that was given by Shashi Tharoor, the response that has come in from the MEA is very measured, and it reiterates that the Indian imports are based on market factors and it is for the nation's interest. The MEA has in fact called the additional tariffs extremely unfortunate, and have also called out the United States for penalizing India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their national interest. Mr. P.K. Basu, what would you say to what Trump has been saying? What can be expected next? Because we've seen a lot of flip-flops coming in from the United States. Is India the only country that is buying oil from Russia? It's not. And yet the Trump administration has been going flip-flop time and again. And President Trump himself, first he said, we don't know if United States is buying from Russia. Then he went on to say there will be additional tariff on India.
Well, his rhetoric changes from hour to hour. So we don't need to respond to everything he says. But the fact is that he is going to be president for the next 3.5 years. So we have to negotiate with him. And we probably need to start playing hardball. It's important to note, for instance, that Facebook and Amazon are banned from China. And yet, China doesn't face the sorts of tariffs that are being imposed on India. So we can look at Facebook, Amazon, McDonald's, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola. These are useless products that the U.S. sells into various markets around the world. India has had an open door for all these unhealthy products. So we now need to, I think, start playing hardball with the U.S. And pointing out that these sorts of companies that have a big presence in India. For Facebook, India is the largest market in the world. So, we can start taking actions against them, just as China has done, and the consequences will be quite significant. Also, it's worth pointing out that if the U.S. is serious about banning all countries from importing Russian oil, that will cause a massive spike in oil prices, because countries that are importing from Russia will then have to seek oil from other places, and unless there is a massive increase in production from Saudi Arabia, etc., there will be a substantial increase in oil prices. The only reason why inflation has surprised on the low side in the U.S. Over the last 5 or 6 months is because oil prices have come down relative to where they were on November the 6th. So from the time of the U.S. election, oil prices have declined because Trump has allowed a big expansion in U.S. production, and he negotiated an increase in production by OPEC+. OPEC+, by the way, includes Russia. So Russian oil production has contributed, the supplies of Russian oil exports have contributed to keeping oil prices down, and that has helped Trump with his agenda of bringing inflation in the U.S. down. So if oil prices were to spike, that appends his entire program. So what is important here is that we need to hold our ground, and we need to start playing hardball, at least in our negotiations with the U.S., quietly pointing out that, you know, you are vulnerable with Facebook, Amazon, McDonald's, Starbucks, etc., having a huge presence in India.
Because they need the Indian markets. But also, is it just a manifestation of the frustration that the U.S. president is having over his own failed claims? He had claimed that he would put an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. He has not been able to do that. But there's clearly a lot of anger that he is holding on to against India, or is it the negotiating tactic? That question remains. We are breaking updates now coming in. Amid these trade tensions with India, the great American hypocrisy is out yet again. A red carpet being rolled out for the failed Marshal. Asim Munir is all set to visit the United States again, with the agenda being it's going to be a farewell of the top U.S. officer. So U.S. is yet again quoting the Pahalgam handler, and not the first time that we are seeing such hypocrisy from the United States. Mr. Ravinder Sachdev, what is the real story of why the United States seems to be quoting Pakistan while angering a close ally like India?
Probably, if to the specific question, I think there are two parts to it. One, Munir has emerged as a strongman in Pakistan militarily, as well as religion-wise. He has a grip on Pakistan, strong. And Trump likes to deal with individuals who are strong and single-window clearance. So that's one. Second, Munir and Pakistan have very smartly made inroads into Trump's inner circle. Okay, that whole cryptocurrency discussion that is out there, that, you know, the Crypto Council of Pakistan made a deal with World Liberty Foundation of only $20 million consulting. In World Liberty Foundation, the son of Steve Witkoff, Zach, is a partner, as well as Donald Trump himself, Eric Trump and Barron Trump. So it's a family business. And Zach Witkoff went to Pakistan in April, around the time of Pahalgam. The Pakistanis impressed him with their red carpet, meeting with Munir, Shahbaz and all, made a deal. So I think, simply speaking, in a very rudimentary manner, these two things have combined. Pakistan has made inroads into Trump's inner circle. We should be clear about that. And Munir especially has made those. And Munir is seen as a strong man, one-man person to deal with. Apart from that, all else Pakistan would have complained about its mineral resources, other aspects, and Pakistan's utility with respect to Iran. So these are some of the things which are very clearly out there. Now, coming back to, you know, the tariffs and all, what to say? I mean, one thing is, okay, the gentleman before me, Basuji, was talking about American companies. I absolutely understand, but I would say, look at Starlink. Why are we giving Starlink open access into India? And the reason being, and this will come back to haunt us maybe sometime, critical sectors of India, if we become dependent on, let's say, Starlink, slow by slow, in 2-3 years it gains market share, our government sector starts using it, and one fine day Starlink says, I'm shutting off or sanctions on you, what will we do? Why don't we think of these lines? Microsoft just 2 days ago, last week, shut down for 2 days, 9 hours, complete, MIS, Teams, and Outlook saying we are under pressure, and those were due to European Union sanctions. We have to work strategically. So that's out there. Now, coming to the sanctions, forget the oil ones, these 25% will hit us. Approximately every 1% of these sanctions will cause a downfall or a loss of over $1 billion of exports. And $1 billion of exports approximately hosts or takes care of about 100,000 jobs. We are going to be in for a loss of jobs and loss of export, there's no doubt. Even if from 25 it came down to 20 or it came down to 15, we are saying Japan, Korea, 15% is still
so tough
much
times,
higher than the 2.5.
Is it going to be short term? Is it going to be long term? Because we have trading partners in the United Kingdom. We have also diversified the trade talks with the European Union also continue. But you're saying that there will be an impact for sure, not just in India, but in the United States as well. I request you to stay with us just a moment. as we play out what Trump has been saying, because 3 days before the deadline for the 50% tariff to take effect, a U.S. negotiation team is also expected to land in New Delhi to participate in the 6th round of talks, which means that India still has this 21-day period to change Trump's very fickle mind. The opposition, though, has already made up its mind, and the Congress party has revived the weak Prime Minister memes. So let's talk about the politics around it. Once again, the Congress party is using the Trump template to attack the Modi government. Their social media timeline is flooded with mockery for India, and their commander-in-chief is attacking the Prime Minister. Rahul Gandhi has said, and I quote, "The Prime Minister better not let his weakness override the interests of the Indian people." The question is, what is the basis of this presumption? Because if anything, the raising rates, the tariff being imposed by the United States only show that India is not bowing down to Trump's bullying tactics and continues to trade with Russia, which is in our national interest.
No longer surprising is that countries like the US can think that they can get away with blackmailing us, which is an unfortunate reality. Having said that, we hope that the Prime Minister, not that he's done it in the past, but flexes his muscle and overcomes his weakness and stands up to this bullying. The entire country is more important, our business interests are more important than his fake self-image.
The Prime Minister Modi doesn't have guts to retaliate in the same coin. What are you doing? So had there been government of Congress, and of course now the country needs a leader like Prime Minister like Rahul Gandhi. He is the one who can reply back to US in same coin.
But we are seeing the impact on the markets as the Trump tariff comes into effect. Sensex has opened 200 points lower. Nifty has also opened in the red. My colleague Hina Gambhir joins us on the broadcast with the details. Hina, today the Trump tariff comes into effect. With that, there's also an announcement, of course, of additional tariff that will come into effect in 21 days. The markets have opened up in the red.
Well, that's right, and this was pretty much the expectation also, that there is going to be some tension that we will see among the investors. Now with Donald Trump, in fact, doubling the tariff on India, even though from today the reciprocal tariffs come into effect, the amount is going to be 25% only, because this additional 25% that was announced by Donald Trump, which makes it 50% in total, this 25% is going to come into effect 21 days from now. So from around 27th of August, additional 25% will be coming into effect. But total is 50%, and that is something that is spooking the investors right now. Even though yesterday the government came out with a statement trying to allay concerns that, for us, national interest is going to be of utmost importance. We'll have to wait and watch if some concrete steps are taken by the government to ensure that, Indian exporters do not have to face 50% tariffs, because the people that we have spoken to, especially the exporters, they are of the view that if you talk about 50% as tariff, then there can't be any trade. I mean, a US consumer is not going to buy something which has buy an Indian product which has got 50% tariff on it. So trade virtually will become zero. So that is the reason why there is a lot of concern here. And going forward, all eyes, of course, are going to be on how the government really responds. But as of now, it's a sea of red as far as Dalal Street is concerned. Sensex, in fact, has opened about 250 odd points lower. It still remains in red. Even Nifty is down by about 80 odd points right now.
Okay, all right. Hina, thank you for joining us with those details. This is on expected lines. The markets have opened in the red, and we're going to see some uncertainty over the next few days as well as the negotiations go on. But President Trump has often said that many nations have taken advantage of us. He has spoken about the trade tariff not being well enough, being put in place well enough. And we're going to see over the next 21 days the negotiations are going on.